So to the news from the Middle East, where the airstrikes on the Gaza Strip, north and south, are continuing, as does Israel's objective of destroying the Palestinian militant group Hamas. Meanwhile, volleys of Hamas rockets are continuing to attack Israel, and in Gaza, tens of thousands of Palestinians are now sleeping rough in the streets, living surreal lives on the edge of the abyss. Amid such dark shades of tension and hopelessness is the ever-present shadow of death. The world must seem like a cruel, dangerous and unforgiving place, wiped clean of innocence as the region barrels towards catastrophe. How much does all that challenge us morally? Well, there are many people demanding peace. One such group is Jewish Voice for Peace, an intergenerational movement of American Jews who are in solidarity with what they describe as the Palestinian struggle for freedom. They've been holding protests in Washington and at the US Congress, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
I'm opposed to the money that the American government has given to Israel. And my hope is that no more money will be given now. If I could give a message to President Biden, I'd say, President Biden, open your eyes. Look at what's happening in Gaza. Look at the devastation in Gaza. If you want to be able to live with yourself, you need to stand up and end the genocide and demand a ceasefire right now.
Over the last 10 days, we have seen the Israeli government and the Israeli military drop over 6,000 bombs on 2 million Palestinians living in one of the most densely populated places on the planet. That is more bombs than the U.S. dropped on Afghanistan in a year.
Well, Liv Kunins-Berkowitz is the media coordinator for Jewish Voice for Peace, and she joins me now on the line from California. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Briefly, how do you think events are unfolding in Gaza at the moment?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been waking up every day to more and more tragic and horrifying news coming out of Gaza. The numbers are unimaginable. It seems that almost 5,000 people have been killed, many of them children. Many more are under the rubble, many more are injured. So we're waking up every day feeling a great sense of heartbreak and a deep frustration with the American government's complicity in funding this genocidal campaign.
And I mean, we're hearing a lot about how intractable a conflict this is, but not so much about how to resolve it. And that is precisely your point, isn't it? How to resolve it.
We are people who are unafraid of dreaming of peace, unafraid of dreaming of a world in which we can collaborate and care for the dignity of all people. And it seems like the politicians in Israel and the United States have no ability to imagine anything beyond destruction and genocide. But we're lucky that we have a few leaders in the United States, specifically Rashida Tlaib, one of the Palestinian members of Congress, among others, who have stood up courageously to call for a ceasefire, to call for an end of funding of Israel as they continue to wage their genocidal campaign.
And I mean, since you brought that up, tell us more about the work that you do at the Jewish Voice for Peace and what you're concentrating on at the moment with regard to this Israeli-Hamas-Palestinian conflict.
So at Jewish Voice for Peace, we are a coalition of American Jews and our allies, and we are focusing on the way in which the United States government is complicit in funding and perpetuating the Israeli occupation of Palestine. The U.S. gives $3.8 billion of aid to Palestine, or to Israel each year, and is promising to send more aid and more weapons as this conflict unfolds. And we will not stand for this. We will not stand for our tax dollars being used to fund the destruction of the people of Gaza. And as American Jews, we're here to say not in our name. Israel and the United States says that they're waging this campaign to protect the Jewish people. And we simply do not believe in a version of safety that's predicated on the destruction of another group of people.
Where does American public opinion seem to you to stand in all of this? Are they mindful of the impact Israel going in the strongest possible way into Gaza is having on civilians who are being killed in Gaza?
I'll be honest and say I feel like our country is incredibly divided over this right now. In the streets, we're seeing pro-Israel rallies, we're seeing rallies in solidarity with the Palestinian people. But this is a moment that has given me hope because so many people within my community, friends, families, the young people, old people are waking up to understand what the reality is in Gaza, and that it's not just now, it's not just in this moment in which Israel is accelerating their campaign, but it's actually been happening for 75 years as Israel has occupied Palestine. I feel people are asking new questions, are thinking about humanity in new ways. And so as much as our country is extremely politically divided, I do think this is a moment in which people are coming to understand the reality of the occupation and are beginning to dream of an alternative.
Well, I mean, some people may be a bit confused because they think Palestinians and Jews are always separate. But I mean, here you are part of a Jewish organization, you yourself are Jewish, advocating for Palestinian freedom and liberation.
It's so important to say that this is not a religious conflict. It's not between Jews and Muslims. It's not between Jews and Palestinians. This is a government, the Israeli government, that is waging a genocidal campaign. It's a political project and not a religious project. I'm so proud to have friends of all different religious backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds. I'm proud to be part of a long tradition of Jews who have been anti-Zionist, who do not believe in the Zionist project. And it's really important. My tradition teaches us B'Tselem Elohim. That means we were all made in the image of the divine, and that includes Palestinians, it includes Israelis. And so it's really my Jewish faith and tradition that calls me to stand with Palestinian people. It doesn't feel at all in contradiction to my tradition, but really because of my tradition that I'm called to stand up for peace.
That's very interesting and very inspiring, I have to say. But what do you say to people who say that Israel is a barrier to jihadism and extremism in the Middle East and is protecting the free world from such extreme people and groups as Hamas and Hezbollah, for instance?
I think we can't combat extremism with extremism, and that is what Israel's doing. There is no version of safety that includes the bombing of 2 million people mercilessly every single day. Israel is complicit with taking the lives of so many children. And that is a level of extremism that I cannot stand for. And it's my government, it's my tax dollars that are tragically funding this. So I believe that we can imagine a world of safety, a world of solidarity, where people of all different kinds can come together against the many types of extremism that are in our world.
Well, let's try to imagine that world in the context of the Palestinians. I mean, what exactly do you mean, or when you say you're working towards Palestinian freedom? Does that mean that you're advocating for a Palestinian state which may not necessarily be the same as advocating for Palestinian liberation?
That is a great question. And I feel like it's my role as an American to really focus on what I have impact in, which is the way in which the American government funds the occupation. So my immediate concerns are pushing for the government to stop giving aid to Israel as they wage this campaign. I'm also so proud to be part of communities here in America that are imagining a Judaism beyond Zionism. And that means being really rooted in our tradition and our culture and our prayers. I have so many lovely anti-Zionist friends who I practice Shabbat with every week, but we're also in connection and community with different kinds of people. I had the privilege of growing up in New York City, and I saw firsthand what it looks like to be a person in diaspora who gets to practice my traditions, and also I'm invited to the amazing celebrations and cultures of all my community members. I went to a school that had Jews and Muslims and Christians, and so I believe in coexistence and peace because it was the reality that I was so lucky to grow up in.
So, I mean, if you were in touch with Palestinians currently in Gaza, I mean, I don't know if you are, but what would you advise them to do? Should they fight back against what you and they see as oppression, or do they accept their fate in the face of overwhelming Israeli power?
I really don't feel it's my role to advise the people of Gaza what to do in this moment, because I cannot possibly imagine what it means to be in their shoes, to live in the largest prison in the world under military blockade for 16 years, denied medical aid and food and water. But my message to the people of Gaza is there are people who are with you. We stand with you. We are dreaming of your freedom, and we are here doing everything we can in the United States to make sure that our government does not continue the destruction of your communities.
But I mean, after what both sides, I mean, because the Israelis have gone through a lot, as well as the Palestinians, after what they've lived through for decades, and in the last couple of weeks, I mean, the unimaginable trauma, do you think they can rebuild their lives and live next to each other?
I mean, this is a huge question, and it's a question that we should all be putting our minds to and thinking of our own role in this. But I do want to say I understand the intergenerational trauma that so many Jewish people hold. My own family had to flee pogroms in Eastern Europe, and I was raised hearing the stories of the things that my ancestors survived. So I want to be clear that I don't think carrying trauma, carrying fear of what it means to be a Jew in this world is any justification for violence against another group of people.
Well, I have to say it's really been brilliant talking with you, and the things that you say are enormously inspiring. Liv Kunins-Berkowitz is the media coordinator for Jewish Voice for Peace, and she was talking to me there on the line from California. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much for your time.